Pleased to be here.
We're looking at spotlighting stigma experiences as they relate to racial identity, gender, and socioeconomic status. You know, she spoke a lot about that. She mentioned those areas. And to lead that, please let's put our hands together to our panel lead and as well as our panel members. Let's welcome Mercy G, Dr. Tom Bamike, Shola Folarin Ogunde, Veronica Karawiwa, Lydia Yangura, and Clara Rufai.
I'm not gonna let you slip away. You don't have to be afraid. Mercy said no. Sin will never take control. And I'm standing here only because he made a way. And I'm standing here only because he made a way. Said we're standing here only because he made a way. That's right, y'all. We are not here for no reason. We are here because somehow, through the tests, the trials, the tribulations, there was a way made. And at the times, we didn't get it, we felt it, but he made a way. And I'm Mercy G. There wasn't much of an introduction. I am a singer-songwriter. I am a mental health specialist for over 24 years. I have worked in high-end mental health services across London, including places where our dear Maris has spoken about, and you can only imagine what goes on in those places. I have been through my own mental health. I call myself an expert by experience and profession. Yeah, because when I was going through some things, including childhood abuse, I found that the community we were in did not really acknowledge the fact that a child can be abused, and instead things were just brushed under the carpet, especially when it's a family member. We don't talk about those things. And you're almost even asked to apologize to the person who's abusing you. I mean, really? And so, yeah, I can say I've been through some stuff, and this is called Every Emotion is Valid. But unfortunately, within our communities, we don't validate emotions. No, we don't do that. We say you can't speak. We say don't say too much. People will know. Even up to now, you know, I'm 40-something, 4 children down the line, where doctors said I couldn't have children, 4 children down the line. And even up to now, my mom still calls me and she says, Mercy, what did you post? Do you know people will think that you're losing it? Why? Because I'm a divorcee and my husband put me in a place where my mental state was further challenged, and you're not allowed to speak about emotions. Because why? You are a divorcee, and people will know that you are not mentally stable. They will think something is wrong with you. Mercy, put that post down. You don't want people to think that, you know, something is wrong with you. And I say, but Mom, something is wrong. Things are challenging, something is wrong.
It's okay to speak.
And it's okay to speak. And so I thank you all for all your wonderful words of encouragement, speaking life into this life and into these lives. And we have a fantastic panelist today, and I'm blessed Dr. Shola already said a lot of the things that concern our panel talk today, but I'm going to throw it out. And one thing I'm not going to do, I'm dyslexic, I'm not going to pretend to pronounce names or remember names. You're all going to have to forgive me on that one. So I'm going to hand directly to my panelists to tell us their names and a little bit about what their story is, but how it relates to the topic we're talking about. Is that okay? Yeah, is that okay? And you guys just come along with me, because somebody said something that was really key. He said, how do we support the journey? Yeah, did you get that? You got that right, the journey, because we're all on a journey and we all have a story to tell. I mean, if I was to pass the mic around right now and just randomly choose somebody, I'm sure you will have a story to tell, a journey to tell. Something painful, something that you have been victorious in, something that you may still be struggling in. So we are going to listen to how it relates to the stigmas from race to ethnicity to our culture, and how there's been a level of overcoming. So tell us your name and where you're coming from and how. Let's start over here for a change. We started with the ladies first, so we're going to start with our doctor over here.
I had escaped because the other brother sat at that end.
Yeah, we switched it up, right?
So it's been a double switch now. I will talk about my experiences in the NHS and also in the police. My name is Tokumbo, Ade Tokumbo Bameke, and I work as an anesthetic practitioner in the hospital. I was born about 60 years ago. I lost my wife and then remarried to my lovely Rose here.
Rose, where are you? We've had the roses in the room, yes. Can you stay away then?
So
Please, God.
That's another seminar that I've had with our princess about the loss, bereavement, and so on. But what I'll be doing today will be sharing the experiences that I've seen in hospital, how racism and gender identity and even, I call it poverty, not just low socioeconomic class, I call it poverty, how it has played out before my eyes, and I couldn't do anything, couldn't say anything. So that's what I will talk about today. I have boys at home, doing well. I tell you about my hobbies. I like reading, I like driving, I like history, I like art, I like gardening. So many things I like, and that's all about myself for now. Thank you.
Wow. So I think at one point it will be very useful to have an understanding of what that is like, to actually see the struggles and feel like there's not much you can do about it. So we'll pick that back up. Please introduce yourself, our beautiful, beautiful, shining mama. Yes, can you see how she's shining? Please put your hands together as I hand over the mic.
Hello everyone. I'm so privileged and honored to be here. I've had lots of stories. All our stories are different, and mine is also different and unique in itself. My name is Shola Folarin-Yugunde. My background is in education. I used to be an assistant head teacher. I was in education for about 24 years until I decided that I wanted to follow my second passion, which is autism. So I have a son. I've got three sons, three wonderful sons. My youngest son, who's now 20, is still my baby. He is highly autistic. He has a learning disability. He's got what has been termed global development delay as well. And he's fully and totally dependent on myself, his brothers, and his dad, my husband. So I decided to use what I would call deeply rooted pain to help others. So I decided to start my own, form my own foundation called Jesse's Place Foundation. And the Jesse, if you do the math, that's my youngest son's name, Jesse. And I use his story, I use what we go through, I use his triumphs and the difficulties that we go through to empower others. As we speak, Jesse's Place is now a force to be reckoned with my local authority. So when we're talking about stigmatization, when we're talking about the cultural barriers that families face, especially families from my part of the world, African families, Asian families, what they face, not knowing what services to go for, not knowing what their rights are, and the way they're being treated in education, within education as well. I see myself, just like what you said earlier, I deal with this through experience and through being a professional as well. So I'll leave you there for now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is so challenging to, when you have, your child that you're trying to work with and manage, and yet still the fingers are pointing and people are still trying to figure out what you're doing about it. And sometimes I want to pick up on, just before we move on, how did you deal with some of the stigmas that came along with, because let's be real, when there are children that we're raising and there are learning difficulties, there are stigmas attached there. How did you deal with and manage some of those eyes, ears, fingers? How did you manage that?
To start with, part of my nature is stubbornness. I'm quite stubborn, which means I don't, in my view, I do not actually see the stigma because I'm very intentional about my parenting. My husband is very intentional about how we parent our son. So when we're in church, for instance, especially when he was younger, he couldn't sit still in church. So yes, you get the eyes looking, but because we have a network of people around us who we've made it very clear about who he is and what he stands for, they understand him. And then they see the way we are with him at church. So he might decide that he wants to put his head on his dad and his legs on mine as we're sitting. We let him. And what people don't realize is some other people are watching you as you are dealing with your son or handling him or treating him. Because it's the way you treat yours that others will treat your child. So what we get sometimes is people coming to us and say, oh my goodness, we love the way you are with your son. We love what you do with him. Please, can you come and talk to this person? Please, can you? So yes, I know there's stigma there, but that's why I founded Jessie's Place. And that's why I took professionals to Nigeria for a week. To work with the state government, so we can have this huge.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
I went to. We did Lagos 10 years ago, but then we did Abeokuta a couple of years ago, just before COVID, where we had people like lodgers and market people, and people just who have families because we know how disability is being treated in Africa. We know, parents hide their children indoors. I was on stage once and I was speaking about my son. I didn't tell them it was my son until afterwards. And they were shocked. They came to me to say things like, oh my God, so when we used to beat that young boy 10 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe he had autism. We would beat him and we never realized that, there was something not quite right there, but he would go back and do that same thing again. So you got lots of damaged children and damaged young people. So I know the stigma is around, but I'm intentional. My husband is intentional.
That's fantastic. I'm not cutting you, but I'm just going to say something quite controversial because I've been doing some research about it. And one of the things that, and you will be able to pick up on this and tell us how this does or maybe doesn't apply. You said you have other children, your youngest is autistic.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read about, and not only read in a few documentaries, was that there is a process that you go through when you recognize that my child is different. And we're talking about loss here. Most of the topic is about loss and how you overcome that. And the grieving process and what you are or are not allowed to feel emotionally, right? So did you ever go through a process where you felt grief?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because we don't talk about that part, right?
Yeah.
We don't talk about how, is it normal to feel that,
I'll quickly tell you this, just quickly. Being my background in education had given me the privilege to know about autism even before I had my son. So we started noticing the signs when he was 2. My husband's background is psychiatry. He's a psychiatric nurse, a clinical manager. So he also had a clue. But then you still push it forward and go, no, it can't be. He's just not talking quickly. He will start to speak as time goes on. But then we did the assessment. He went for the assessment. My husband and I sat down. They told us that, yes, he is autistic. Like this time he was about 4, going on 5. And my husband got up, ran out in tears. I am meant to be the kind of, strong one. I was kind of swallowing hard. Then we got into the car. We sat there for over an hour, not moving. Even though it was behind our minds from time. But then when you get the professionals tell you that, and then they just give you a letter to say, oh, if you're interested in this benefit for your son, you could, and that's what we got. That was the only help we got. But because, I've always known about autism. So even before that diagnosis came, we've already put interventions in place for him.
Right.
All we just wanted was a confirmation on paper so we could go for more of the support and interventions that he will need.
So you had already processed that emotion?
Yes, and even as I see it now, I'll be a liar if I say, okay, yes, he's 20. I don't sometimes think about the son that I would have had, because he's got two older brothers. 2 degree, the two of them are 2-degree holders, they're professionals, they're doing well. But then, we know that he couldn't go down that line, which is fine. But then we enhanced and nurtured his strengths. So he's a wonderful gymnast. He's a wonderful athlete. He doesn't speak to the athletes when he's training with them, but he can run as fast. He recently went on to a competition in gymnastics. Won gold medals. So we know what he likes to do. So we're making sure that's his own pathway to independence.
Absolutely fantastic. Please put your hands together for that. We don't kind of admit some of these things, these emotions, these thoughts, these feelings, but they are valid. It is very valid, and we should take into account how people feel during these processes. So thank you so much. Last but certainly not least, looking so beautiful at the end, please introduce yourself to our wonderful guests.
Hello everyone. I have to say today's been a really emotional day for me. I've learned so many lessons that if all I did was sit here and recount my takeaways, you guys would be getting like a workshop, an entire lesson from that. I've seen so many things.
Hands together for that. Hands together. Come on,
see it.
clap that one up. Yeah.
I don't know how Princess Folaji managed to curate this amazing group of speakers. But one thing I've seen from listening to everybody all day today is that trauma and adversity are universal. And everyone is going through something. Another thing I learned is, or I've seen, is our shared humanity. Stories are powerful. Stories connect. Sometimes they connect you to the people that you're called to serve. That's very much my story because I lead a life of service. For me, I've gone through trauma, like everyone else, as you can imagine. Lost my dad at 13. Lost 2 of my sisters on the same day when the boat capsized, and it was the most traumatic. That really marked me. And just in March this year, lost my brother to cancer. I'm still grieving very terribly, as you can imagine, from that. So we've all been through these things, but every single time I go through grief, I try to come up with something positive. I try to look for a way to rechannel it. So I've also seen pain triumphing into purpose from everybody that has spoken here, and that makes me so very proud to be a woman and to be a human and to be alive at a time like this.
Clap it out, clap it out. Come on.
And so my name is Clara Rufai. My background is in law. I'm a corporate lawyer. I'm also a speaker, a mentor, a coach. They call me the Shine Strategist because I am the creator of the Shine Philosophy. And the Shine Philosophy is basically a technique for living a purpose-driven life that helps you to start, harness, identify, network, and express your brilliance. So there is a way to overcome every challenge, I love what you said, sis, because you said you see the stigma, but you don't validate it.
Intentional.
Instead, yes, she's intentional about it, and for me, that gives her a voice. That helps her to operate from an empowered place rather than a victim mentality. And it's the only way to go because stigma will be there. Whether you like it or not, someone's not going to like your face. Someone's going to want to put you down. Someone will not like the color of your skin. You won't like the way they look. So what to do? Just tap, look inward, tap inside of you and soar higher into new expressions. That's also what shine means, S-H-I-N-E, to soar higher into new expressions every day.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Please, I know you may be a bit tired at this point of the day. I know, but it has been so wonderful. But give them and yourselves a big, do better, am better, have done better round of applause. And can I ask us the moment?